Two women joined the same company, same year, same product, same town. They worked just as hard as each other. One of them built the life the brochure promised: the house, the trips, the photo with the giant check. The other lost her savings, filled her garage with product she couldn't sell, and slowly stopped getting invited to things. Same company, same effort, opposite lives. The difference between them wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It wasn't who wanted it more. It came down to a single number. A number this company is legally required to publish and privately trained to make sure you never actually read. Once you've seen that number, every "Hey, I've got an amazing opportunity for you" message you ever get will sound completely different. I'm going to show you that number, but not yet, because a number can't scare you until you understand what it's measuring. So here's the deal for the next few minutes. First, I'll show you where the money in these companies actually goes. Then, I'll show you why, once you're in, you'll stay long after it stops making sense. And only when you've seen both of those will that one number mean what it's supposed to mean. Start with the message, because you're already doing the thing everyone does. You're telling yourself you'd be the smart one. You'd actually sell the product. You wouldn't buy a garage full of inventory. You'd quit the second it stopped working. Hold on to that confidence. By the end, you'll see that almost everyone who lost money believed the exact same thing about themselves on the day they signed up. Now, the message itself. It almost never comes from a stranger. It comes from someone you like. A friend from school, a cousin, the mom from soccer practice. And that is not a coincidence. It's the first move of the whole machine. A normal business pays for advertising. This one doesn't have to. It runs on your friend's contact list and the trust attached to every name in it. And the pitch is built to skip the part of your brain that asks hard questions. It doesn't say, "Come sell leggings." It says, freedom, flexibility. Be your own boss. Be home when the kids get home. Your manager becomes a mentor. The company becomes a community. Notice every word is chosen to make it feel like you're being invited to belong, not being asked to buy. And there is something to buy. We'll get to exactly what. But first, the money. Where does it really come from? Here's the first thing they don't put on the flyer. To join, you usually have to buy in. Sometimes it's a starter kit. Sometimes it's a monthly fee just to stay active and keep earning. In one company the government later looked at, that fee was $19.95 a month. Small enough to feel like nothing. Automatic enough that you stop noticing it leave. But the fee is the small part. To climb the ranks they showed you on that glossy slide, you don't just sell the product. You buy it, up front, in bulk. Thousands of dollars of leggings or shakes or supplements stacked in a spare room, a garage, a nursery. And you're told this isn't spending, it's investing in your business, that the boxes are an asset. So test that word. An asset is something you can sell. Now try to sell last season's designs when the company has already dropped 3 new lines, and every other rep in your town is dumping the same stock at a loss in the same Facebook groups on the same afternoon. That garage isn't an asset. It's a bill you haven't finished paying. And here's the quiet part. The moment you bought that inventory, the company already made its sale. Not when a customer buys from you, when you buy from them. To the company, you were never the salesperson. You were the customer, wearing a badge that says owner. Their money is already home, whether or not you ever sell a single item to a single real human being. Keep that in your head, because now we follow the money, and the direction it flows changes everything. A normal business has one simple test. Money comes in from the outside, from a customer who isn't part of the company, buying something they actually want. That's it. That's what makes it a business. So watch where the money comes from here, because it runs the other way. When you buy your inventory, your mentor earns a cut. Her mentor earns a cut of that. His mentor earns a cut of that. The money climbs, level over level over level, away from you, toward the top. And what feeds it isn't sales to the public. It's the product you bought to join, and the product bought by everyone you can convince to join under you, which tells you what you were really recruited to do. Not sell, recruit. The person who invited you was told the same thing you're about to be told. The real money isn't in customers, it's in building a team. Signing people up who sign people up who sign people up. And if the money comes mostly from recruiting, then the recruits are the customers. You didn't get hired, you got sold to. And your job is now to go find the next person to sell to. Follow that to the end, and it can only work one way. For anyone near the bottom to get paid, an even bigger bottom has to be built underneath them. More people, then more under those. A shape that has to grow forever or collapse. There's a word for a money structure that pays the top from the buy-ins of the bottom, and it isn't small business. But hold that word, because the company has an answer for it, and that answer is the whole reason this is legal. We'll get there. By now you're thinking, fine, but people do make money in these. You've seen it. The trips, the checks, the six-figure posts. So let's stop guessing and go to the paperwork, because these companies are required to publish what people actually earn. It's called an income disclosure statement. Their numbers, not a critic's. And in 2024, the Federal Trade Commission did something nobody had bothered to do. It pulled 70 of them and read them side by side. Here's what 70 of the industry's own disclosures showed. Most participants made $1,000 a year or less. Not a month, a year. Less than $84 a month. And that's before you subtract everything they spent on inventory, fees, and samples to get there. For most people, this isn't a low-paying job. It's a paying-to-work arrangement. And it gets worse. In at least 17 of those companies, most participants made no money at all. Not a little. Zero. One company's own disclosure admitted that as many as 78% of its people earned nothing in commissions. While, remember, a chunk of them were paying that harmless $19.95 every month. In another, 99.4% earned $1,000 or less for the entire year. And notice how they hide it in plain sight. When almost everyone earns nothing, the company doesn't delete the chart. It spends the chart on the winners. Pages of ranks and bonuses describing the tiny group at the top, and a single thin line for the enormous crowd at the bottom. You read a document full of big, exciting numbers and walk out certain those numbers could be yours. That's not sloppy. That's the design. But even these disclosures flatter it, because they only count what you supposedly earned, never what you spent. Add the inventory, the fees, the samples, the conference tickets, and the picture flips from low income to loss. The AARP Foundation asked people who'd actually done it. 73% made no money or lost money. An independent review of dozens of these companies put the share who lose money after expenses at around 99%. Whatever the exact figure, every honest look lands in the same place. Losing isn't the risk here. Losing is the base case. At this point, you'd think someone would have stopped this. Someone tried. If all of this sounds theoretical, one of these companies got dragged into court with its receipts read into the public record, and you probably owned the product. The leggings, LuLaRoe. At its peak, tens of thousands of women were selling those buttery soft prints out of their living rooms. And to sell, they bought big. Onboarding packages in the thousands. Then, more inventory to hit the bonuses, until spare bedrooms filled floor to ceiling with plastic-wrapped clothing they'd paid for up front and couldn't move. The exact garage we described, multiplied across the country, with real names on real credit card statements. In 2019, the state of Washington sued the company, arguing it ran as an illegal pyramid, that it rewarded recruiting over real sales to real customers. In 2021, LuLaRoe paid $4.75 million to settle. And while those spare rooms filled with unsold stock, the people who built the company were living in the very top line of that chart. The mansions, the private jet, the parties later put on screen in a documentary. Look at what the founders sold versus what they kept. They sold a dream of independence. They kept the wholesale money from every case of product their sellers bought chasing it. That is the entire machine, caught once in daylight. The winnings at the top were the losses at the bottom, wearing a nicer outfit. And here's the uncomfortable part. LuLaRoe wasn't unusual. It's just the one that got caught. The same structure is being pitched to someone you know this week. Which raises the real question. If the math is this brutal, and one of them paid millions to settle a pyramid lawsuit, why is any of this still legal? The answer is a line. A thin, blurry, ferociously defended line between an illegal pyramid scheme and a legal, multi-level marketing company. On paper, the difference is one sentence. A pyramid pays you mainly to recruit people. An MLM pays you mainly to sell real products to real customers outside the network. One is banned. The other fills arenas. And the whole industry lives in the gap between those two sentences. Because real sales to real customers is exactly the number these companies work hardest never to measure. If most of the product is bought by participants, to join, to rank up, to stay active, then the retail sales are mostly just recruits buying their own inventory, which is the pyramid the rule was supposed to forbid, wearing the paperwork of the thing that's allowed. Proving that means auditing a company's internal sales data, one company at a time, for years. There are hundreds of these companies. There is one Federal Trade Commission. So the report you just heard about was a report, an exposé on paper, not a wave of shutdowns. And when workers and regulators have pushed, courts have largely shrugged. As long as a product keeps moving and you call your recruits customers, the shape stays. So let's be clear about what that means. This isn't a scandal in the sense that someone broke the law. The math is public. It's been public for years. The regulators know. And it keeps running anyway. Not because it's hidden, but because it's legal. That's the part that should stop you. Not that somebody's cheating. That nobody has to. Which brings us to the second layer, the one that isn't in any disclosure, because it's inside you. Because knowing the odds are terrible has never once stopped people from joining. And to understand why, you have to see what the structure does to your own head once you're in. Start with what you've already spent. The kit, the inventory, the fees, money that's gone. Every instinct tells you the way to get it back is to push harder, buy the next tier, recruit one more friend. So the more you lose, the more committed you become. The losses don't push you out. They lock you in. It's the same wiring that keeps someone at a slot machine that's already emptied their wallet. Then there's who you're told to sell to. They call it your warm market. That's not a sales term. That's your mother, your best friend, the women from church, the group chat. So the messages go out, the coffees turn into pitches, the birthday party becomes a launch, and slowly people stop picking up. You were sold a community. What it often costs you is the one you already had. And when the doubt finally creeps in, the machine plays its cleverest card. It shows you the dream again. The house, the car, the freedom, beamed straight into your chest, brightest at the very moment you're most chained to it. And if it still isn't working, you're not told the model is broken. You're told you are. You didn't believe enough. You've got a scarcity mindset. The failure the math guaranteed for almost everyone becomes your personal flaw. So you reach for one more coin. Shame isn't a side effect here. It's the retention tool. So that's the second layer. It isn't that people are foolish. It's that the structure is built to turn your best qualities, loyalty, hope, the willingness to work, into the exact reasons you can't walk away. Now you've seen both halves, where the money goes and why you'd stay, which means you're finally ready for that number. Remember the two women, same company, same year, opposite lives. Here's the number that separated them, pulled straight from one real company's own disclosure, the kind the FTC read. That company had 10 levels, and down at the bottom, on level 1, sat 92% of everyone in the entire company. Almost every single person you would ever meet in it lived on this one line. Now the top, level 10, fewer than 1 in 10,000 participants. The average person up there made $1,018,300 $350, off the same product line the person on level 1 couldn't give away. Put those two numbers next to each other, and you don't have a career ladder. You have a shape. $41, holding up $1 million. 92%, and the average person on that line earned $41. For the year, $41.69. That's one tank of gas. It's less than some of them were paying in monthly fees just to stay active, which means, on average, the bottom of this company didn't earn a wage at all. They paid for the privilege of working for free, holding up a fraction of a fraction of a percent. That's the word we held back. It's a pyramid, and it's printed in the company's own paperwork. So here's the answer I promised you at the start. The reason one woman won and the other was ruined was never effort and never talent. It was which floor of that shape the math had already assigned them before either of them said yes. The winner at the top wasn't proof the system works. She was the reason the 92% kept paying. You were never going to be the seller. In a structure like this, you were always the sale. So how do you make sure the next message costs you nothing? Because there will be a next one. You don't need to memorize any of this. You just need 3 questions, and the disguise falls off every time. 1. Where does the money come from? If you'd get paid more for recruiting people than for selling to real customers, it's not a sales job. It's the pyramid, by definition. 2. Do I have to buy to belong? If staying active means a monthly fee or a minimum order, you're not the seller. You're the revenue. 3. Who actually makes money here? And can they prove it on paper, not on Instagram? Ask for the income disclosure. Read the bottom line, not the top. If 90% of people are on the row that earns almost nothing, that row is your honest forecast. The woman on the stage isn't your future. She's the reason your future is priced the way it is. And none of this means the people holding the catalog are villains. Almost all of them are on that $41 line too. Sold the same dream you just watched come apart. The trap was never the people. It's the structure. And the structure is built so the truth arrives after your money does. Now for you, it arrives first. So the next time your phone lights up with, "Hey, I thought of you," you'll know exactly which question to ask before you answer. And if you want to see the same move, a buy-in dressed up as an asset, running somewhere you'd never suspect, somewhere that might already be sitting in your house, I've got that one for you next. Because once you can see the shape, you start seeing it everywhere.